ready for Time in the Word.
Time in the Word. Time in the Word. Time in the Word. Time in the Word. Time in the Word.
Everybody gather round, there's a message coming down, and we're really out to hear what the living between here to the people of God. It's time for rejoicing in Jesus.
Welcome to Time in the Word, presented by ReJOYce in Jesus Ministries, an on-fire Bible-centered teaching ministry based in Los Angeles, California, with outreaches throughout the United States, stretching from coast to coast. Join us now as Pastor Chester C. Pipkin Jr. brings us an exciting anointed message.
You know, put your stuff in the hamper. When you step out of your clothes, don't drop them on the floor. Some people, that is hard for them to not drop them on the floor. And the organizers are so bugged with that. They're just like, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? That thing on the floor really did not bother them. It did not bother them. Now, I'm not saying that you're okay because that's not your gift. So let's clean that up now. Let's clean that up now. I'm saying it's easy for the person that's organized. But I'm saying you still need to get your nasty clothes up off the floor. But we're going to work with you because we know that that's not your gift. So we're going to help you a little bit. Let me help you pick this up today. Tomorrow, I'll take one sleeve and you take the other one. And then the next day, put it, in the hamper now. Enough is enough. I mean, it's not easy. It really isn't. But then you see the ones, even as little kids, when they can't even, Angela's little girl, she likes cleaning. She always, and that's not Angela's gift. That's the funny thing about it. So Angela just laughs because she's just like, I don't know where she got that from because she know it wasn't from her. So she just walks around and so I got her, for Christmas, I got her a regular gift, but then I got a little $5.99 or something, little broom that had the little dustpan. I added that to her gift. And you know what? Angela called me up and said, Mom, because I mean, people had bought her little kitchenette sets and big old thing. She got about 3 or 4 houses of people that adore her, like grandparents over here and then somebody else over here. So she had all this stuff, and Angela took her home, and she had all these things at home to play with. Angela called me up and said, Mom, she said, guess what Alani's playing with the most? And I was like, what? That little pan and that little dustpan and broom that you gave her. I was like, girl, that ain't cost me but $5.99. And people spending $500 and doing all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I bought a little something else to go with it. But she ain't even paying attention to that. It was the dustpan. And because she likes doing her little cleaning and her little wiping down thing. I told Angela, I said, she probably does it because she know you didn't. No, so she probably like, Mom, let me learn how to do this. No, I'm joking. She's clean, but she's a project cleaner. Y'all know some people kick in and do good cleaning, and then they're through for a while. So she's one of those project cleaners. She's come over at times when I needed help and just kicked in and did a big project thing, and then that's it. That's it. Don't expect that anytime soon again. You know. But I'm just saying that God put things in us, and what the devil wants to do is make us judge each other because what comes easy to us may not come easy to the other person. So then he'll have you judging and telling, make you feel like something's wrong with you. And no, what it is that some things is just going to take more of the grace of God in order for us to activate that one. That gift is buried down in there somewhere. But it's good if we're well-rounded and we learn how to develop all of them. If I don't have mercy and I tend to just be corrective, then I might need to develop a little bit of mercy. and just get in there. And I told you guys once before that I had read that in Romans 12. I had heard somebody say that on the radio like years ago. I think I had just gotten saved way back in the day. And they connected how you can temper the gifts, each one of the motive gifts, with the scriptures that come right underneath it. The ones that follow after it talks about the gifts. If you actually take the scripture, it'll tell you what you need to do. I'm going to read a little bit of it here. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as living sacrifices. So will it be sacrifices? It's not easy to be a sacrifice. That means you got to die. Right? So that means you got to lay down all your attitudes and all this stuff and be a sacrifice for the Lord. Okay, it says, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Some versions say is the right thing to do. No big deal. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. So a lot of people are like, what is the will of God for my life? God wants you to know what his perfect will is. And in order to do that, you may have to go good, acceptable, and then perfect. It's like good can be the enemy of best. So when somebody is like, well, it was good what I did, that was good, but it's the best. You should always be working toward getting to the best. So you don't just want to do the good thing. You want to find out what is that perfect plan that God has for your life. What is it that he is trying to perfect in you at that particular time? And it says, for I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. So don't think, in other words, don't exercise yourself and stuff. That sometimes people step in the middle of something that they can't even understand, and they try to like dissect it. And they're like, well, God is showing me that the problem is that. And it wasn't even your place to be figuring out the problem. I told y'all this one time. When Sandra and Sarah Lynn, Carla's daughter, those who know Carla, when they were little, one time they were in the bathtub. And, I guess Carla brought her daughter over, and they were both taking a little bath together. Just little kids, barely able to talk. They're sitting in the bathtub, and I walked in to check on them, and I heard them talking about who they were going to marry. They didn't even know what marriage was. So they were like naming girls and guys. So I think one of them was like, I ain't going to marry you, or I ain't going to marry, they didn't. And then I walked in and said, be quiet, because y'all don't even know what marriage is. Just be quiet. Don't even talk about it, because y'all don't even know what it is. But there are some things as Christians, you don't even know what you're talking about. Stay out of it. Y'all looking at me crazy now. It's like sometimes I'll hear things about something went on in somebody's home. Ain't got nothing to do with me. So I'll be just like, if you ain't killing your child, I ain't going to tell you when to beat them. Just don't kill them. Now, if I think you're about to kill them, I might be like, oh, you might want to pull back just a little bit. Don't kill them. But at the same time, the word says don't be a busybody in everybody else's affairs. And so I've had times that people were all in the middle of my stuff and what was going on with my life and my home and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm on the pastoral staff and I ain't asked you about your house. I ain't even messing with you. I don't even know what you're doing. Unless I think you're killing somebody, I'm going to leave you alone. Because there are some things that people don't even understand. Why you got to do it the way you do it. What are you doing? What is that? Why did you do? We can be busybodies in other people's affairs. And you can't be sharpening your gift when you all up there trying to figure out about everybody else's gift and trying to get theirs sharpened. Y'all with me? So I've had times that people were mad about something and da-da-da-da-da. And my thing is, if I ain't bothered you about yours, why you bothering me? I'm on pastoral staff. I could have bothered you if I wanted to. If I wanted to use my authority, I could say, well, I heard this, and you need to get that together in your house, and you need to. Most time, I don't know what y'all doing. Unless I hear something really bad, I don't bother you, because I got too much of my own stuff I'm dealing with. And there's too many real needs out there. Does everybody hear me? Yeah. If we would just get rid of the clutter, all the clang and the clutter, all the nosiness, all the busybodiness, and get on with the work of getting ready for Jesus and getting the word out. If we could just take our time and start doing more of that and stop messing and peddling around with stupid, silly things that don't have anything to do with anything. Amen? Anyway, so as we go on, it says that as we're members, we're all members in one body, and all members have not the same office. And it goes on, and then it goes on down in verse 6. It says, having the gifts differing to the grace that's given to us. And then it goes on with prophesy. Prophesy, in other words, prophesy according to the measure that has been given to you. So if you know you're not a prophet, and if you don't really have the gift of, if you haven't developed the gift, don't try to make the gift more than what it is. Hello? Y'all with me? Is everybody with me? In other words, if all you can do is hear God say, you get light in your everyday life, you get light impressions from God. You tend to get impressions. But you know for sure, you don't know for sure that he said, thus saith the Lord. You know, don't turn it into something that is not. Y'all hear me? Because some of the people that swear God is telling them all kinds of things, I be like, if you heard God that good, you would have stopped doing some of the stuff you be doing. If you heard the voice of God as good as you try to act like you hear it, why are you still nasty? Because I promise you, if you were in there praying and you were hearing God, God would have slipped that message through to you. Something's not consistent. See, it's not consistent. So when people are like, yeah, God told me, and then God spoke to me, and then God would do. Well, I know a lot of things you needed to hear, and I ain't heard you say nothing about God, said nothing about none of them. Hello. Ooh, y'all quiet. Y'all want me to shut up and put on sit raw. You know, the church, if we're going to sharpen, that means we got to look at stuff, right? And it's just a small group of us, so what better place to look at it than here? You know? And we have to get in there, and we have to be, be real before God. Be honest with where we are. Amen? And it says, and we have different gifts. And so the prophecy person, I wanted to know what that exact wording was. Because, when we think prophecy, there's the gift of prophecy, but there's a motive gift of prophecy. If you have a motive gift of prophecy, it doesn't make you a prophet. You're not a prophet just because you have that motive gift. The motive gift is the meaning is speaking forth of the mind and counsel of God. So it doesn't mean that you're going to always be walking around like, thus saith the Lord. The Lord told me to tell you. It may not mean that. It just means that God gives you the ability to speak forth his mind. So your tendency would be immediately to try to speak forth what you feel like God is saying about something. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? Because it's something that motivates you to automatically want to bring forth to people an utterance of what God would be saying in a case like this. Do you guys get what I'm saying? That's not the office. That's just something that motivates you. Like a server naturally is going to clean up if somebody spills something. You know how many people are going to walk past that stuff that just got spilled? The people without the serving gift, the organizer is going to tell you how to orderly. Yeah, they're going to delegate. You're right. The organizer is going to find the servant gift person. And can you go over there and clean that? Oh, by the way, the broom is in the cabinet to the left of because they know exactly where everything is. But they're not going to do it themselves. And some of you guys have serving gifts. And sometimes a servant gift can be overlooked. Sometimes the person with the servant gift feels like nobody appreciates you. Any servers out there? Raise your hand if your motive gift is serving. How many servers sometimes feel unappreciated? Yeah. Because you guys are, but see, keep in mind, the greatest in the kingdom is the servant. So keep in mind, and that doesn't mean that we're not serving with our gift too, because I can serve you with my exhorting, But I'm going to still, if I see water spilled on the floor, I'm going to pick it up, whether I got a serving gift or not. Everybody got that? I'm going to do it because whatever my hand finds to do it, I do it with all my might. You ain't got to have the gift to take care of business. So I want to get that straight because that can be an excuse. I don't have a serving gift. Where the servers? Water on the floor. Where the servers? No. They naturally do it. When you do it and it's not natural, you get a reward for that because we know how hard it was for you to humble yourself and do that. But I want to right now take a minute and just encourage the ones that are servers. And I'll give you an example. Like, now these two happen to be on the second pew. Jeff and Eric, they both walk the dogs, the big dogs that are outside. They walk those big dogs. Now, it takes some serving to do that because you got to go in there, and the dogs don't just sit there and smile and put on perfume. They poop. Dogs poop all the time. They got to go get that poop up. They walk the dogs. They got to just walk through the neighborhood. They do stuff so the dogs won't be unhappy because, if the dogs don't get walked, they probably going to end up dying or something in there. So they're just walking the dogs and doing that. And, there probably are lonely moments. Is that true? That sometimes you feel a little like overlooked? Yeah. Jeff, you too? Yeah. But you know what? Let me say something to y'all. Work that gift. Because without the serving gift, where would we all be? Let me tell you something. If y'all didn't do what you do, our houses would be dirty. Dog poop would be all over the world. We would be stepping in dog poop. If the servers weren't there, nobody would be cooking a meal. All kinds of things wouldn't be getting done. The house would be so dirty that nobody could ever walk in. Serving gifts are very important gifts, but it's not a gift that you feel praise from because, like an exhorter, I'm an exhorter, but I also minister, so I get to stand up here and I get to exhort y'all as a group, and you could feel like, well, that's more glorious than but let me tell you what I do all them other hours that I'm at home. Guess what gift operates through me? And you can ask Tamika because she's over there. Ebony has seen my times too, that when I'm at home, exhorting is not my first gift. Don't nobody want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. And I have my moments that it turns on. I have my moments that I'm like, come on now, get in here, you can do this. I'm probably more of a perceiver at home than an exhorter because with your kids, you're like, you better get up and do your homework. What is wrong with you? Do you want to flunk? And then the exhorting gift is out the window. I'm looking for a belt, a broom, whatever I can find. But I have to do what I have to do to bring forth the life that's necessary. And my serving gift is on. And this can look glorious and everything. But how often, this is my first real message that I've done since the beginning of the year. Because I've been so busy operating in my servant gift at home. You guys hear what I'm saying? God has times that he'll put this aside and have you doing something totally different that has nothing to do with your gifting because you find a need and you fill it. If it's a need, you take care of it, gift or not. Because the gift is the gift of righteousness. And the righteousness will turn on to whatever it needs to do at that appropriate time. Everybody got that? Okay, so I can go on with all of them so nobody will feel left out. But anyway, what I want you guys to do, though, is to look at the sharpening part of each one of them. Because in verse 6, you see the prophecy. But then when you see all the end of the gifts, you guys see after verse 8, it says, let love be without dissimulation in verse 9. And then it starts tempering each one of those gifts. So if it says, abhor that which is evil and cleave to that which is good, that can go with the prophecy gift. Because prophecy people tend to look at the evil and not see the good. So that particular verse, it's for everybody. It's for all the gifts. But it specifically fits with the prophet gift. To hate the evil and cling to the good. Don't just hate evil. Prophecy people hate evil. Don't just hate evil, but cling to the good. It goes to the next one, in ministry. Let's see. Let me try to. It says, let us wait on our ministering. And then the next one after cleaving. Okay, verse 10, it says, be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. That one can go also with the serving gift. You guys hear what I'm saying? Because one thing I've seen with servant people, they like to serve, but sometimes they step over the other server. They step on top of the other server. We used to have competition because some of the nannies used to clash because they wanted to, one of them wanted to serve and the other one wanted to do something, and they would get in, and the other one would get mad because they didn't get to do something that they wanted to do. You guys see what I'm saying? So, but this particular scripture right here tells us, be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. So while you're serving, prefer the other one sometimes. Let them have their due opportunity. Don't you just be the one that has to be in there doing all of it. I used to literally see it people stepping on each other's territory because they want, like if we needed something, sometimes one of them would bring it so quickly and the other one was like, I was scared to, but it's kind of a little competition thing because they really do like serving. You guys know what I'm saying? Most of y'all like, I can't understand now. I ain't fighting over nobody. If they want to do it, they can do it. You know what? I think I'm sorry to say this, but I think back in the day, we were a little bit more servants than we are today. I hate to say that. Right now, when we call a cleanup night, and we don't do it that often at the parsonage, but, we do have events there every so often. And so when we have events, we call cleanup night. And a lot of times it's only these 2 or 3 women and a couple of the men. And the men are down there putting the tarps down that we have to put on the floor. They're down there doing it, Sometimes we don't have but 1 or 2 people. And it's hard nowadays to get people that want to serve. But just remember, every time you serve, you're building God's kingdom and you're getting rewards for it. You ought to be knocking each other down. We ought to be able to say, come on, you guys. I know you all want to do it, but be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love and honor, preferring. Let somebody else serve this time. We ought to be able to say that. We ought to be telling y'all, stop knocking each other down, trying to serve. Saturday night, don't have the same 1 or 2 breaking down all the time. We ought to be getting in there like, can I help? Can I help you get this together, brother? Let me help wrap up these cords. And when it's time to lay the stuff down, there shouldn't be like 2 people just walking back and forth. I've seen times where sisters are carrying big old things by themselves, and the men walk right past them. Excuse me, and walk right on by. And it's like, don't do that. Okay, if she has to carry it, she will. But if a brother walks by and he can help, give it to him. I would just like, here. I would be like, hello. I've had times that people walk by, I'd be like, excuse me. You want to be a man? Be a man. Take this. And it's like, well, I thought you had to, know how to handle things. I do when you're not around. When you're not around, I'll carry the groceries in. I will coordinate things and balance it on my head. But when you come around, here. And that's where the women need to stop trying to be so independent. I'm not saying belittle, we can't do anything, but don't be so independent. Let the brother, because that does something for him. Whether he may not have wanted to do it, but when you give it to him and he has to do it, it makes him feel more of his manlyhood. You guys got what I'm saying? Yeah. But when the sisters are like, I got this, then you acting like a man. Hello. Y'all quiet now. I know the Proverbs 31 woman strengthens her arms. Vonda says that she strengtheneth her arms. Well, strengthen it when ain't nobody around. Do all the strengthening you need to do. When Bill walks in without groceries, he goes and gets out groceries 2, 3, 4 times a week at least. Probably about 4, at least 4. And he walks in with groceries, and he's carrying all the stuff and coming in and putting it. Now, I'll put it away sometimes if I'm in the kitchen and he brings it at the same time I'm in there. Then I'll start putting it away because I feel like, well, at least he was out shopping and he got it all. I can at least stick it in the refrigerator, you know. So I might put it away. But if he has something heavy, I'm not going out to the car and get the heaviest thing. If he's there, I'm going to get something. I might grab a couple bags, but I'm going to get the light ones. And I'm going to let the man get the other ones. He's a man. Let him be a man. If you rob him of those opportunities, then even though he might feel at the moment like I didn't want to do it anyway, it still takes something away from him. Because it makes him feel like there's something that I can do that she can't do, or she can do, but she would prefer not to. She'd prefer to let the man do it. Ooh, y'all real quiet now. This generation, and you know, people that you get on one of them, those trains and buses and all that stuff. They let women stand up, pregnant women. They let you stand up and hold on to that rail, and it's just like. And the men, a big grown man sitting right there looking at the women.
We would like to send you a tape of this entire message. For any donation of $5 or more, we will send you a CD. For any donations of $12 or more, we will send you a DVD. Please write to us at ReJOYce in Jesus Ministries, P.O. Box 47775, Los Angeles, California, 90047, or call 323-ReJOYce. Please mention tape offer number TITW 1395. That is tape offer number TITW 1395.
Hi. You know the Bible says that all things are upheld by the power of this word. That means when you put the word in your heart, it will produce life and health to all your flesh. It will also produce faith so that whatever you come up against, you can overcome it. But remember, you won't have the victory you desire unless you make a decision to not allow anything to get in the way of your intimacy with Jesus, nor allow anything to distract you from your time in the Word.
Thank you for watching Time in the Word. If you were blessed by today's message, we'd love to hear from you. You can write us at P.O. Box 47775, Los Angeles, California, 90047. Or call us at 323-735-6923. That's 323-ReJOYce. And if you're in the Los Angeles area, visit our worship service on Saturday nights at 7:30 p.m., 1304 Cochran Avenue, corner of Cochran and Packard Street. And again, thank you for watching Time in the Word.